It's 2 a.m. You're staring at the ceiling. Your phone is face down beside you because you promised yourself you wouldn't check it. Your mind is racing through tomorrow's problems, and you feel like something is broken inside you. But the real answer is far stranger. For most of human history, this exact moment, wide awake in the dark, mind wandering, body restless, wasn't a malfunction. It was the plan. Your ancestors didn't sleep the way you do, not even close. And the way they filled those dark, wakeful hours might explain more about your 2 a.m. brain than any sleep app ever will. Start with a simple question. What did people do before electricity, before screens, before the modern 8-hour block of unbroken sleep? You picture them collapsing at sundown and waking at sunrise. One long, uninterrupted stretch. That picture is wrong. Sleep researcher Thomas Wehr ran an experiment in the 1990s that changed how scientists think about nighttime. He took a group of volunteers and removed artificial light from their evenings, extending the natural dark period to 14 hours, the way it would have been for most of human history before electric lighting. Within weeks, something unexpected happened. The volunteers stopped sleeping in one long block. Instead, they slept in 2 distinct phases. A first sleep. Then, in the middle of the night, a stretch of quiet wakefulness lasting an hour or more. Then a second sleep, carrying them through to morning. He called it Biphasic sleep. And it wasn't a fluke. Historians later found something remarkable. References to a first sleep and second sleep show up again and again in old letters, court records, and literature, from ancient texts through the early industrial period. People wrote about the time between sleeps as normal, almost expected. Some prayed, some talked quietly with a partner, some simply lay in the dark, thinking. Nobody called it insomnia. They called it the middle of the night. So what changed? Light changed. Cheap, abundant, artificial light collapsed the natural 14-hour night into something closer to 8 hours. Your body no longer had room for 2 sleeps and a waking gap in between. It had to compress everything into a single block. And it had to do it fast, on a schedule dictated by alarm clocks and workdays rather than the slow fade of dusk into dawn. Your ancestors before that shift weren't fighting the dark hours. They were using them. Anthropologist Carol Worthman spent years studying sleep patterns across societies that still live without electric light, from foraging communities in Africa to small agricultural villages in South America. What she found broke almost every assumption modern sleep science had quietly built in. There was no fixed bedtime, no rigid 8-hour target. Sleep was flexible, social, and often shared in the same space by multiple generations, with people drifting in and out of rest as the night moved around them. A baby's cry, a shift in temperature, a sound outside the shelter, all of it interrupted sleep constantly. And it didn't seem to matter. That fragmented rest, so alarming by modern standards, wasn't hurting anyone. It was just how sleep worked before the world went quiet and dark and empty at exactly the same time every night. Here's the part that reframes everything. UCLA sleep researcher Jerome Siegel studied 3 remaining hunter-gatherer and pre-industrial groups, tracking their sleep with the same devices used in modern sleep labs. He expected to find some ancient secret to perfect rest. Instead, he found people who slept roughly 6.5 hours a night, often less than the modern recommended 8, and reported almost no insomnia at all. Why? Because the concept didn't exist for them the way it exists for you. Waking in the night wasn't a problem to solve, it was simply part of the rhythm. Nobody was checking a phone to see what time it was, calculating how many hours of sleep were left, and spiraling because the number was too low. That number, that clock watching, that internal countdown, is a modern invention. Think about what actually happened during those ancient waking hours. No screens to reach for, no blue light to trick the brain into thinking it was still daytime. Just darkness, low firelight, maybe the sound of breathing nearby. In that space, the brain didn't panic. It settled into something researchers now call quiet wakefulness, a state closer to meditation than distress. Some of what filled those hours has left surprising traces. Cave art at sites like Lascaux and Chauvet was likely made, at least in part, by firelight. meaning some of it may have come from these very hours between first and second sleep. Storytelling, too, probably lived in this window. The fire low, the group half drowsy. Someone speaking softly into the dark. Anthropologist Polly Wiesner studied the Zhu Huanzi people of the Kalahari and found that their nighttime conversations, unlike daytime ones, were almost entirely stories. Myths, histories, jokes, the kind of talk that builds a shared imagination rather than solving a practical problem. Daytime talk, by contrast, was mostly complaints and logistics. Night was for meaning, so the dark, wakeful hours weren't wasted time. They were, in a strange way, some of the most human time. Time for connection without agenda. Time for the mind to wander without a task attached to it. Now think about your own 2 a.m. The racing thoughts, the low hum of anxiety about tomorrow. That's not entirely your brain malfunctioning. That's an ancient waking window, still built into your biology, now filled with modern stress instead of firelight and quiet talk. Your body still knows how to do biphasic sleep. It still expects, in some deep and outdated way, that waking in the night is normal, not catastrophic. But the surroundings have changed completely. Instead of darkness and stillness, there's a glowing phone. Instead of a quiet voice nearby, there's silence and a racing mental to-do list. Instead of settling into quiet wakefulness, you fight it. Check the time, calculate your remaining hours, and turn a natural pause into a crisis. Matthew Walker, a modern sleep scientist, has pointed out that this anxiety about waking up at night may cause more damage than the waking itself. The interruption isn't the enemy. The panic about the interruption is, which raises a strange, almost comforting possibility. Maybe you're not broken at 2 a.m. Maybe you're exactly on schedule, running a program written tens of thousands of years ago, one designed for firelight and soft conversation, now running in a world that gave it neither. Your ancestors didn't fear the middle of the night. They filled it with stories, with quiet company, with the kind of unstructured thinking that modern life rarely leaves room for. So the next time you wake at 2 a.m. and your mind starts racing through everything undone, try something different. Don't reach for the phone, don't calculate the hours, just lie there, in the dark, and let your mind wander the way it was built to. It's 2 a.m. You're still staring into the dark. But maybe for the first time, you understand exactly why you're there.